intense, right? It's amazing to me that, like, that scene between the assistant principal and those two boys when she tells them to shake hands is probably one of the most explosive scenes in recent American cinema. I mean, we do not have an audience that does not like shout or scream or gasp every time they see that. You know, you can have a movie where people's heads are being blown off and people are like, "Aww." And this scene just really gets to people. Really gets to people. And you know what's so incredible about it, or what's so amazing, or why it's insightful is because it's not someone chopping your head off. It's that rote stuff that happens day in and day out that breaks somebody down. And there's a lot going on there, right? Some people say that the answer to bullying is zero tolerance, right? Well, that's one of the ways that zero tolerance manifests itself. It doesn't work. Because the victim often gets lumped in with their attacker. Zero tolerance gives educators who want to rush through a problem a great way out. Two people involved in conflict, they both get the same punishment. Another thing that happens in that film is a theme that's repeated a lot throughout the movie Bully, which is this like question of do you trust us between kids and educators, right? Do you trust me that when we say it's taken care of, that it's taken care of? And throughout this movie, you'll hear kids say no. No, it doesn't get taken care of. It carries on. And so they stop coming, they stop looking for help, they close down. And there's a message for that in parents to parents as well, which is that, like, if your kids are talking to you about bullying, you have to assume that what they're actually telling you is just the tip of the iceberg of what's really going on. So, all this problem, what do we do with this? I'd say step one, the most important thing, is creating the will. Is that hearts and minds stuff. It's not a law, although a law can be great, but it's getting people in the family, at home, in their schools, in their school districts, in great schools of education, to agree that this is a priority, that this matters, that letting this go on in their building, in your world, is not okay. That's the number one thing that can change this, is agreement. Is people actually deciding that they're going to care and take action. So how does that happen? And this is where I think the great creative, like as a creator, I'm a filmmaker, right? So I get to think from a creative perspective, but I think what's cool, or what's hopeful rather, is that there's not one set of solutions, right? Like what might work for a school in your community might not be appropriate for a very rural school somewhere else. Each community has to come up with what resonates and what works and what they can build and create and grow into something that will have a lasting impact on the culture of their school, their culture and the fabric of their community. It has to be a collective effort. But some of the ways that you can get there are utilizing tools like social and emotional learning, right? What does that mean? That means you're teaching kids how to process social interactions, how to make more ethical decisions from an early age, how to express their feelings, and how to listen to other kids' feelings. What's a really simple way that you can start doing stuff in a school that is completely in line with social and emotional learning that most schools don't do? Stop letting kids pick teams. Anyone remember that? Gym? Choosing teams. There's always someone that's picked last, and someone that's picked second to last. There's always snickering, and they're always being laughed at, and guess what? They feel like crap. So that's a free solution. Costs nothing. Find another way to distribute your teams. But that goes deeper. You can think about restructuring play, recess, so that it's inclusive, so that is fun, but that people aren't being excluded. It's free. You just have to think about how it gets done. There's great organizations that do that work. One's called Playworks. All of these resources are on our website. You can do things like have a class meeting. There's homerooms every day. Use some of that time to put people in a circle and talk about their feelings and make them listen. And listen to them. The teachers, that's the important one. Do listen to them. Right? And then you can talk. Talk about the issue, engage in the issue, share your own stories with your students, with your kids, talk to your parents, like be in communication. Those are just some really basic strategies. But again, I emphasize, I think the number one most important thing is creating a changed perspective across the country so that people aren't brushing this off as if it doesn't matter. They're saying that it matters and taking it seriously. And I'll give you an example. So, and I think I'm probably going to run into time issues, so I want to be mindful of the fact that we want to get into Q&A with you guys. But what we saw as we were releasing the film was the sense that this was like a very special moment for the issue. Right now it's Bully Prevention Month. You guys are having 4 events. There's events all over the country. There's TV shows that are dealing with this right now, Glee, X Factor, this movie. You have what you could call a zeitgeist. Like, this is an issue that has incredible currency in popular culture, in media, in public affairs right now. All the ingredients are there to create, as you heard when I was introduced, this idea of a tipping point. And so I'm like profoundly, profoundly hopeful that that's exactly where we're going. That this generation, you guys, that you guys, the students that are here, the students of education that are here, and everyone else in the room are the ones that will collectively decide that we're the generation that's going to actually put bullying behind us and not accept it any longer at all, period, full stop. We're not going to work in those buildings. We're not going to create those cultures, and we're not going to stand by and see it happen in our hallways or to kids that we know, even kids that we don't know when we see it. Because when you intervene, when you step up, you could truly be saving a life. You could truly be making such a huge difference in someone's life. And you would hope that someone would step in and do that for you when you need that. So to that end, what our group, what we've been doing is we're a team. The Bully Project isn't just me. It's a group of organizations that have banded together, volunteers, and staffers that have created the Bully Project. And we launched a project called 1 Million Kids. Our goal, an educator just asked me about this for her school tonight, is to screen the movie for 1 million at a minimum students across the United States in an educational context. So how does that work? What happens is we have actually gone out and raised a lot of money so that when a district or a teacher or a principal comes to us and says, I'm ready to take this on, we say, okay, if you agree to do teacher training, professional development at this basic level, and you agree to do a pre-teaching process with your students and a post-teaching processing process with your students, we'll provide, in most cases, busing, but in all cases, free tickets, so you can go to the nearest movie theater and see it on the big screen and have it be an experience, not just a DVD that's plugged up in the classroom and the teacher goes out in the hallway, but something that's special that can become like actually a meaningful event that kids get get really excited about. And I'm really proud because we've actually in just a few short months been able to reach over 211,000 students through this program across the country. And I just want to, in beginning to close, show you some of the outcomes of that. So, this is San Francisco a few weeks ago. About 700 students after seeing the film. Just charged up, ready to go out and make a difference. This crowd, you won't believe it, 7,000 students. 7,000 students together watching bullying. Now, I thought this was going to be potentially a total disaster, right? Like, what if they all start laughing, or squirming, or aren't into it? What if, just what if? And it was so, I can't even tell you guys how awesome it was. It was like the entire room, all 7,000. You could hear a pin drop through the entire movie. Until, and you won't get to see this scene because you'll have to see the full movie, but until at the end of the movie, it's the last day of school, and things have actually improved for Alex over the course. Things have happened in the film that you start to see that things are going to change for Alex. And so he goes up to this girl and he says, "Hey, can I sign your shirt?" Right, last day of school, because they've never done that, sign each other's shirts. And she says, "Sure, Alex." And she turns around and her shirt's got like 100 signatures on it, and he signs it. And then he puts his head down and goes to walk away, and she says, "Hey, Alex, can I sign your shirt too?" He turns his eyes light up, and he turns around, and he doesn't have one signature on his shirt. She goes to sign his shirt, and at that moment, all 7,000 kids start cheering for Alex. I mean, it was extraordinary, and they cheered their way through to the end of the film. Now, how's that? Like they're cheering for these kids that perhaps 2 weeks before, that very day, they might have just walked past them while others were stepping on them and putting them down. We've had lots of feedback from students. One was like as simple as, after seeing your movie, on the bus ride home, there was a kid that always gets bullied, and today I stepped in and I stopped it. And I went with him, and I talked to his parents, and I went and we talked to the school counselor, and he stood up and he said he never would have, he was 13 years old, never would have done that in a million years had I not seen this movie. So, well, sorry, just does that. I'll get back to that in a second. So I guess, to end, I have a huge amount of faith. I believe this is a tipping point. I believe profoundly that it's up to you guys to take that extra mile or 2 miles or whatever really it takes, because we don't know how long it's going to take, but we know we can get there. And if you doubt me, if you don't think it's possible, and you don't think the power of collective agreement can create change, think about something like drinking and driving. 30 years ago, maybe even less, most people thought that it was okay to drink and drive, you have to get home. Today, people don't do that. They just simply do not do it. They will not do it anymore. It's not accepted, it's not socially okay, and society has changed. And I really believe that bullying will be very much like that. We will reach a point where youth and adults together will come to agreement that this is just not something that we're going to take anymore. And when we start to do that, we start to see those changes in our school, in our communities. So much is possible. And so the thing that I just did pull up was, I'll show it now, is, and maybe I'm preempting one of your questions, but is anyone curious how Alex is doing today? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, all right. So he is completely a different kid. He is getting A's and B's. He has friends. He is not bullied anymore. And he's become something of a national spokesperson and a role model to thousands and thousands of kids. Right? The boy you just saw in my movie couldn't speak without his lips shaking. That's how horrible things were for him. And just the other day, we were in San Francisco, and he was getting a youth award, and he was getting the award from Sean Kingston, who was up on stage with him. And so Alex, and nobody knew this was possible, went up to Sean and said, "Hey, would it be okay if I dropped some rhymes?" And he was like, "Yeah, all right." And I just happened to have the video, so this is Alex a few months ago.
Alexander Superstar!